Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Southern U podcast, and we are all in the same building. It's been a minute, yeah. So
yo.
I get to do the formal introduction again of the man, the myth, the
legend.
dear legend himself has graced us with his presence.
Yeah, I ain't been here in a while.
That's right, Matt Brock.
He's more of a legend than he knows now.
That's right.
I guess.
Matt Brock of Habitat First Properties is in the building. What's up, Matt?
I'm enjoying life, man.
That's right. Been burning stuff and been
burning more than I really wanted to burn at times, but
Burn more than he got paid for.
Yep.
gotcha.
Bonus acres.
Bonus
That's
acres.
it.
That's right.
Where you at, John Stivers? him and Kent Hamby.
Yeah.
We're all about giving value around here.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I'm not burning right now. It's too dry. We have not had a drop of rain the entire month of October.
Yo,
No.
it's dry as popcorn fart here.
It's dry.
It's bad.
It is really
It's
bad.
dry. And, of course, to my left is Mr. Jeremy Ferguson of Wildlife Consulting Services / Tutland /
anything
anything
else
else
I
you
can
want
make
to
a
throw
dollar.
at him. Yeah, anything else. So,
He'll take your money.
Full-time cow daddy right now.
cow daddy.
or bull daddy, I guess.
They even wrote me into giving the deadgum thing some medication a few days ago.
Yeah, he helped do some injections on a little calf we're having to bottle raise.
There you go. Tender beef.
It's very tender.
It is, but my wife would kill both of you and me.
Yes, she
And
would.
anybody else that got between her and that baby.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mary. Don't listen to this podcast. Don't listen to this
She
episode.
talks to that calf about like most of our wives talk to babies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yep, I understand.
That's her babies.
Makes sense. Well, guys, I know it's been a minute since we've all kind of got in the same room, and a lot has happened since then. We've kind of all been doing a lot of different stuff, but one thing we've all been doing has been flinging a few arrows, man. Bow season is
Well, not all.
And I've shot plenty of arrows, just not at
not at animals. That's right.
I did get to sit in the woods. You know, that's the first time I've bow hunted on our place.
In a while.
It's either 2 or 3 years.
But,
Really?
hey, you know what? He did see a really nice deer.
I did.
Yep, I know.
Almost in bow range.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we can get some.
In bow range at open ground.
Yeah,
Just not in the woods.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully when we put this thing together, if I've got that footage, I'll try to throw it up there where y'all can see a deer.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's weird because I can't remember. Well, actually, I can't remember. In my adult life, I don't think there's only been 2 times that I've missed opening day. I normally that's like a holiday for me. You know what I mean? I'm everything's all bets are off. I got to go on opening day, but I didn't go a couple of years ago because my sister decided to get married on opening day.
Great
That
idea.
I mean, is that not the craziest thing you've ever heard?
I can't
in your life?
comprehend
Y'all
a woman
shoulda
that would make
disowned
that
her.
decision.
Oh, I had to officiate. I had to do the wedding.
That's
No, you
even
didn't.
worse. That's worse.
Yes. So, I mean, I couldn't get out of it. There's no way. But I didn't go then, and I didn't go a couple weeks ago because of the SOA hunt that was taking place like 2 days later. So I was like, you know what? Need to just make sure I've got all my work stuff caught up and have all my ducks in a row before we go to the woods. And that proved to be the smart thing to do. But
Well, you know, it's funny because I usually don't miss opening day of bow season either.
He don't miss many days.
So I had a dilemma. I was scheduled to burn opening day, and I had to make a really tough decision. Either hunt that morning, start my burn a little bit later, and not go hunting that afternoon, or sleep in, get my burn started a little earlier, give me time to hunt that afternoon. So that was the plan.
Or
Happened. Plan
or
C.
do neither.
Yeah, I didn't do either one. We still got the burns started a little early,
You did.
but we ended up having several spot fires, and I'm not talking about like just over the line.
uh-oh.
I'm talking about
No. I hate to jump in, but
You can tell it.
He don't tell it good.
You can
Because
tell
I'm
it.
just here to tell you, when we pulled up out there, I went and looked the next day, and he said, I got to go check it again. So I rode with him. And when I saw what happened, I was like, crap. The fires, they were doing nothing but playing leapfrog.
Yeah, it was bad.
The big fire, what he was burning, I was like, how did fire get over here? And he's like, well, this jumped from here. And it did. It was a big jump, long way. But
like 200 feet.
Yeah, but then you could tell. You could just look at the direction of the fire. It's like every new fire started a new fire.
Yeah.
It was funny.
So
funny for me to see and not have to be there and fight.
It was not funny because I called him. Literally in the middle of it, I called him. And
he was beside himself.
I was like, Jeremy, I'm done. I'm not burning anymore. I'm done. I'm just done.
I thought he quit burning. I thought I'm done. I'm not doing any more. And I was like, well, what are we going to do?
We got a lot more burning to do. But no, so the fire breaks were adequate, and typically, my biggest concern before starting a fire, go around the fire breaks. I check everything, make sure there's no large, big debris piles, on the edge. Snags, we'll go ahead and cut those down. And the tops of the topography, the top of the ridge is generally where your winds are going to be the highest. And that was directly opposite of what happened that day. We had like a little natural funnel at the bottom of the hill, and all that energy and fire, it was just sucking energy down there. There were 25-mile-an-hour wind gusts at the bottom of the hill, and it kept jumping in the same place every time. So we'd have a little spot fire, we'd get it put out. Spot fire, get it put out. And then after we got through putting one of them out, I looked up the hill, and I was like, oh, no. There were active flames burning in a brush pile that was 60, 70 feet long, a big brush pile. Nothing I could get put out with the equipment that we had there. And what had happened is a little ember flew over the line, and it deposited itself in that brush pile, and it just sat there and smoldered for no telling how long until it finally just caught the thing on fire. Well, it's dry right now.
Oh,
and
it's
when
extreme.
Dry wood that's been laying there for 2 years is burning, you're not putting it out. So we had to call the Forestry Commission to get out there and do some dozer pushing. And the freaking fire just kept getting ahead of the dozer. And then they left after everything was okay, and I had to call them back there again because what they had already put a line around, somehow it got out of that on the other side of that and started burning again. So I think, just estimating, I think I burned about 7.5 extra acres, which is really not that bad. It's not.
No.
That's
all
the
things
worst,
considered.
Yeah, that's the worst escape I've ever had.
And that's one thing people got to keep in mind that we talk about burning, especially these guys that want to burn their food plots off just because they got a lot of thatch. You can get in big trouble.
You might burn off that thatch.
Careful.
You know what happened in Greene County a couple of weeks ago? A gentleman.
Tay don't.
Well, a gentleman did that. He lit some thatch in a food plot and ended up burning 220 acres of someone else's property, or the majority of it.
Well, maybe they'll have some pretty nice understory later.
yeah. I don't know how intense it was.
You're welcome.
I don't know.
Well,
but
you said very likely some legal action coming out of that one.
Very possible. I mean, I've heard that there was some stuff that may come out from out of that. So
that's why when you don't burn professionally, you probably don't need to start fires.
Not at the driest time of the year.
I mean, I don't know about the rest of the state, but where we are, we've gone the entire month without a drop. And we were dry before that.
That's right.
So I think out of what the hurricane, Helene, is that what it was called? We got almost 3/4 of an inch.
That's awful.
Or maybe half.
Yeah, maybe.
It wasn't much. It was enough to get everything wet.
Well, see, we were very dry in August and September. Actually, July, August, and September.
Yeah, y'all.
And then we got, depending on what part of the county you were in, I think we got between 9 and 12 inches during Helene and Milton. What was it?
Milton? No,
Was it?
Melvin?
Melvin.
Is it
Maybe
Melvin?
it was Melvin.
So,
I don't remember.
It was a weird name.
It was.
That, yeah.
Either way, we got a couple of inches out of that system. So, I mean, we got – actually, we corrected the deficit that we had up until that time, and our average rainfall for the year is really not that low. I mean, we're about average. But it's come in spurts where you were really, really dry, and we get 6 or 7 inches of rain in 2 or 3 days. And now it's been really, really dry again, and we hadn't got anything this month. Hopefully rain's on the horizon tomorrow and Friday.
So. I drilled all of our winter pasture land, I don't know, a week ago or so. It's just sitting there in dust. Really, it's what it's sitting in is dust.
I know. I have a very, very, very small little area right here behind the house that I try to just put some clover down just to, and it's so funny because I guess it's germinating from like morning dew.
Yeah.
Because it is starting to sprout up barely. But I mean, that's all it's had on it. I've not watered it. It's not rained. It's extremely dry, which is kind of what I want to talk about here is that just kind of do like a little early season, bow season kind of recap for kind of how things have gone and talk about maybe what made those things successful in spite of poor conditions and those sort of things. So, but yeah, it's moral of the story is it's been extremely dry lately, and that has altered the way that we've had to hunt. Had to kind of employ some different some different strategies and different ways of approaching. I know that typically speaking, if you have access to private land and you do have a food plot of some kind on your property, normally this time of year, it's like if all else fails, if you just can't seem to locate, you can't pattern bucks, that sort of thing around white oak acorns or around, something like that. If all else fails, you can at least go get on a food plot late in the evening
and see
deer. You know what I mean? Something's going to walk out there. We don't even have that luxury now with it being so dry for most of us. So,
now, I will admit,
they're coming out doing dust bath.
Yeah. My food plots look great. They do, other than they just haven't received rain. Mm-hmm. But they got moisture when they were planted.
Right.
So they're up several inches, but they're going to eat it real soon because the deer are browsing them pretty heavy.
Yeah, there's some over there that don't look like they'll make it.
Yeah.
Not another.
If we go another 10 days,
14 days,
then
they're not going to make it.
No.
Yeah. It's pretty critical.
Yep, and that goes for probably a lot of people. There's a lot of people still want to plant around Labor Day, and it's just a bad idea.
It is.
For us. Look, guys, the fact that October is the driest month of the year for us.
Yep, every year.
Why are all these folks surprised right now?
Yep.
I mean, there's a reason my seed is sitting in dust because I didn't want to slip up and have what Matt's got. Now, he may turn out lucky. He may get the moisture.
Here's the deal.
But he may not.
I knew what I was getting into.
Yeah, you did.
I mean, I took a gamble.
But you had a bunch of rain coming.
I had a bunch of rain coming, and I thought, well, shoot, if we get the kind of rainfall they're talking about, that'll last me a month.
Yeah.
Like my crops will last at least a month before it gets critical. And I just I'm taking the gamble on that.
Yep.
I think I planted on the 18th of September, and I planted again the first week of October, what I didn't get that first round. So I planted before the rain, and then I planted just immediately after.
We'll check back in and see what happens.
If we get rain, he'll be in good shape. If we don't.
If we can just get a half inch tomorrow, like they say a half to 1 inch. If we can get half an inch of rain tomorrow, then I think I'll be all right.
Yep.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, sounds good. I guess we can just kind of, go around the room there. I know that Jeremy got in the woods and was able to see, a decent deer too. So
A good deer.
What do you think from that? First off, just kind of give us the scenario. Is that a morning or evening hunt, and where were you hunting, and that sort of thing?
The hunt itself was in the afternoon, and ideally it's a place that I don't really like being in the afternoon if I can help it, because of wind thermals being down in the bottoms. They want to sit down in the bottoms, but I felt like from where the deer were coming from and where the wind direction was supposed to be, I would be pretty good. And ended up, I was fine. Deer came from the direction we expected, coming from the clear cut. And basically the way it sets up is we've got big mature pine on one side of the creek. We've got creek drainage, and then we've got several hundred or how many acres is that clear cut?
273.
273. So we got that many acres clear cut, and those deer obviously living in that clear cut a lot of the time.
Boy, are they. We take care of that clear cut.
Yeah.
But I just snuck in because I didn't even expect to see a deer. Matt and I were talking.
There's a few white oak acorns in there.
Yeah, there was a few dropping, and we had set up a camera on a scrape in there. And
got a couple deer on camera.
Yeah, I knew there were deer just filtering through. And I was like, I'm going to go sit somewhere that I got the opportunity at a doe, shoot a doe, get that monkey off my back, and then we'll start the year right. And didn't see a doe. Saw a really good buck, 45, 50 yards or so through the woods. Just didn't give me any opportunity.
That's a bomb in the south.
Yes.
Yeah,
Long
it
shot.
is.
Oh, I mean, there was – I never touched my bow.
Yeah.
Because coming from where he came from, there's a really deep creek. But now they cross it. I mean, heck, a few places me and Matt can just jump across because it's narrow, but it's really deep. But he was on the other side of that, had no intention of coming across. So I, based off his line of travel anyway, he had no desire to be on our side or my side. And he just really not feeding around, really just kind of up moving to feed.
Yeah.
We've got a –
You know where he was headed.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Know where he's always headed.
There's a white oak ridge down the creek, probably, 150 yards from there? 200 yards?
200, yeah.
And I guarantee that's where he was headed.
Yep. So, saw a good mature buck, one of our target deer. But, got to enjoy seeing him.
Yeah.
Getting in the woods. Like I said, I think that's the first time I've bow hunted out there in 2 or 3 years. I'm generally Kansas in November, part of October, November, and prepping to go, which I will be again.
Right.
But I had a little time to get there, get out in the woods. Had a blast. Got the new Darton tuned in.
Yeah.
I love that thing.
Right.
And I let you talk me into putting a Garmin on it.
Yeah.
So, yay. something else electronic to give me problems, I imagine, one day.
It could be.
But honestly, I got a little frustrated setting it up a time or two. I'm not the tech wizard that Tay-Tay is. But you better not get close now, son.
Yeah.
He's in trouble, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's what
I just don't know. It's very hard to describe the shootability of those bows.
Yep.
But they're just comfortable to shoot.
they are,
I mean,
man.
And I know a lot of people didn't like the Prelude, the draw cycle.
Yeah.
I am a little weird. I actually prefer the harsh draw cycle of the Prelude to the one I've got now. To the, oh my gosh.
Sequel 33.
Yeah, Sequel 33. Shoot both of them great, though.
Yeah.
It's just personal preference on draw cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, I've said the same thing with, last year, Matt and I both shot the Veracity, the 35-inch bow, and it's, in its, design, it really is more of a 3D bow. It's kind of what it was built for. But the bow it's so accurate. That's what I tell everybody.
My Veracity shoots unbelievably
and
well.
you can absolutely wad arrows up at 50 yards. I mean, you could just ruin an arrow. You shoot a 5-arrow group at 50 yards and you can ruin your arrows. But it's also, for me personally, it's also a 35-inch bow. It's a little heavier than I'd probably like for it to be.
Yeah,
even
35
though
inches in the tree too is.
It is, not quite as maneuverable and those sort of things. Limb stance, it's not. It's not a parallel limb bow like you see a lot of hunting bows are now. And that's the kind of my biggest difference with going to that 33, the sequel this year. Its limbs are even beyond parallel, especially when you get to full draw.
Yep.
And it cancels out vibration when you let an arrow go. It just thumps, and that's kind of the best way to describe it. It'll just thump, and there's no hand shock, there's no vibration, there's no anything, and so it's just a
It's-
pleasure to
it's
shoot,
there.
man.
Yep.
It's
It feels
very very fun to shoot the bow. You don't feel like it's wearing you out when you shoot it.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
fast.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Nice
quick
fast.
bow. I would like to know what mine's shooting. That's the only piece of equipment here I don't have is a chrono. I'll probably work on that maybe in the next year. But but I'd like to know.
We
what
need
it's
to get
shooting.
one of the. Of course, you guys don't get that deep into it, just shooting rifles like I do. But we need to get our hands on one of the Garmin
Oh yeah, there's
Zeros because they'll do archery and
they will.
ammunition, bullets.
Yep,
bullet flat.
They are very nice. But yeah, but I like them too. And Matt, I know you. Matt got blood splattered all over the
Oh, I
place
mean-
over there. So we need to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean that Joker.
I sense jealousy.
I've had
A little bit.
I've had a really good start to the season. So I started out hunting in a place in west central Alabama because obviously I didn't get to go on open day. But I went, I think it would have been that Thursday afternoon and Friday morning.
You hunted there the same time I was in the woods.
Yep.
So like 17th, I guess.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Yeah, that's right.
I went and hung a stand in an area. It was a hardwood flat on the Tom Bigby River. And a few swamp chestnuts in there dropping, not heavily yet, but they were dropping a lot of water oak and willow oak, a few cherry bark. And I thought, man, I can't go wrong. There's fresh rubs in here, a lot of deer signs. So I hung a stand and hunted it that afternoon and didn't see anything until right at dark, which surprised me. I thought deer would be filtering through because I was really close to a bedding area too.
But
ended
how
up-
close were you to the buck bed?
I mean, I don't know where the buck beds.
You don't.
I know where.
Can you make them bed in places? Some people can. You can make them bed.
They claim. I mean, look,
I'm just kidding.
this is the freaking South. It's.
I'm just kidding you
I
off
know
topic.
that, but a deer can bed dang near anywhere he wants to. So, I was where a known bedding area is. I don't know who was bedded there, but I know there were deer
Deer
there.
bed.
Yeah, there were deer there.
Yeah.
So, it was maybe 15 minutes before legal shooting light was up. I had two does that came in behind me, downwind. And I reckon they had just circled around, but they might have actually heard me hang in the stand a couple hours before. Just the way they were acting. They didn't smell me, but they either saw me or heard me earlier. They were trying to figure out what was going on. So, and I've got it on video. They came in. One of them came in right under me, and she fiddled around a little bit, and I was trying to get drawn on her. And I mean, I could draw, and I did draw, but I didn't have a clear shot because she was behind a tree when I drew, and I expected her to go to the left and give me a broadside shot. Well, she turned right back into some foliage, and I'm at full draw and just sitting there holding it. And you can see in the frame of the video, I just kind of leaned in front of the camera, and I ended up shooting her. You couldn't even see, all you can see is my hand and the bow. You couldn't see her. Anyway, smoked her. And then 5 minutes after that, getting really low light, I had a young buck, probably a 2-year-old buck, come through, and right behind him was a man, real heavy deer. And this isn't a property that I've run cameras on this year, so I mean, I'm not really familiar with what all's on the property, but it was a mature deer, really good deer. And it was, too late to really positively identify, and certainly wasn't going to take a shot at a deer I didn't know, anything about. So that was my first afternoon. The next morning, I went to another stand that I had hung maybe a quarter of a mile from there. And right after I got settled in, had a deer come in, and he was probably low to mid 130s, 9-point, good heavy deer. Wasn't quite the age that we're trying to shoot on that property, so he got a pass.
Must be nice.
Yeah, but pretty deer, real pretty deer, a lot of potential. A couple hours later, about 8 o'clock that morning, I saw some deer funneling my way. And once again, I'm sitting on swamp chestnuts.
Okay.
You know, there's a few dropping there. Not many. They are now. They're falling now.
Were you sitting in the swamp chestnut?
I was sitting about 2 trees over.
Okay.
I was where I could shoot.
So you weren't going to get hit in the head with one
No.
of the things?
Oh,
Okay.
gosh, no.
I was just curious.
Yeah, I was about 15 yards from a big swamp chestnut, and then there was a white oak out in front of me at about 30. So, you know, both those trees had acorns. And I had a slough to my back, and they just kind of filter down along out of some bigger fields on the property. In the morning, they'll come through there down the edge of that slough, and I was hoping I could catch them feeding on those acorns before going to bed down. So I look up, and one of the deer is definitely one of the target deer that we were going to try to take off place. He's a solid 6-year-old 8, big-bodied deer, tall rack, probably upper 130s. He might go 140. He very could easily do that. He's just a big-bodied deer. It's kind of hard to judge those deer sometimes. I had him at about 50 yards and closing, and the wind shifted. And I felt when the wind hit me on my right ear, I was like, that's not good. That's really not, because it had been hitting me right in my face, going this way, and the deer's right here. So when it started hitting me, blowing to him, I was like, this ain't going to last very long.
Done.
Yeah, and he threw his head up, and he just started looking. And, you know, he got real alert, and I was like, oh, my gosh, this is not good. All the other deer were fine. Not him. He was not fine. And he turned, and he walked about 5 steps, and he just kept looking straight at my tree. And I'm like, you know, I know he didn't see me.
Right.
You know, he had to
But
smell
he
me.
knows you're there.
He knew. And finally, he just kind of threw his tail up and pranced off. You know how they'll do, that prance. And everybody else went with him. Like, oh, we don't know why, but we're going to follow, you know. So that was my first 2 hunts. Had 3 mature deer in, you know, bow range, and less than ideal weather. It was decent weather for, you know.
That's where I
weight,
roll
but-
my eyes.
Shut up. So got 1 doe down, you know, 2 hunts. So I come back home, and I hunt at the house the following Monday or Tuesday. I don't remember what day it was. Shot a doe, and then this is where it gets fun. I had the opportunity to shoot what I thought was a doe, and it ended up not being a doe.
It ended up being
What it ended up being is the highlight of my entire season.
Look, I had all these deer come in, and, you know, we were talking about tactics in the dry weather and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. So I've hunted white oak acorns. I've hunted swamp chestnut acorns. I've hunted a few trails. I've hunted corn. And I can tell you right now, corn is king. It is so dry.
Yep.
And very few acorns have fallen. The ones that are falling, they're hammering.
Yep.
But if you don't have acorns right now, they are really seeking carbohydrates.
Yep.
You know, so corn is king. And I hunted over corn that afternoon, and all these deer were just piling in there, and there were deer out in the food plot, and deer feeding on acorns at the other end of the field. And I mean, there were 16 to 18 deer out there. I didn't count them. Kind of hard to do. And deer were filtering through a standing corn crop that I had in the middle of the field. So I just picked out a big doe and smoked her.
Big doe.
Big doe.
So big she had nuts.
And what's funny is it was 25 minutes before dark. I mean, it's not like it was a low light situation. I have no excuse. I truly have no excuse.
Yes, you do. Called bloodlust.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, I don't pass an opportunity to shoot a doe. I don't.
I
mean,
like
with a
shooting
bow in my
stuff.
hand,
Nope.
there's very few spots that I won't shoot a doe. Like if I'm targeting a specific buck, then, you know, I might lay off of a doe. But it's hard for me to have does feeding under me and not shoot them. It's just good practice.
Yep.
It is.
It's good practice.
Oh yeah.
It's the only practice that's really meaningful.
Well, if you can, and here's the thing with does, if you can consistently kill a doe in the south that naturally wants to duck your arrow, every one of them, they drop just like that. If you can shoot a 100-pound doe with consistency that is trying to elude you, then when you get an opportunity on a 200-pound buck, it's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Or a 270-pound buck.
yeah,
Even easier.
I don't get to shoot at those very often.
Yeah, well, you could. You used to.
It's
That's the Midwest talking right there.
Yeah,
It is.
It really is.
I'll say y'all got some 270 pounders in Alabama. They're in a fence somewhere.
Well, we've killed some 240s.
Yeah.
Not too far off.
It's big deer.
And there was my neighbor killed a 226 the day after I missed the one that I haven't talked about.
Oh, yeah, we haven't talked about that guy yet.
Yeah. So I had a buck coming in that was low to mid 130s. Nice deer. I mean, he's a beautiful deer. Consistently coming in the same camera every afternoon at the exact same time, and the wind was awful. I mean, it was blowing. I had two stand options. I had a lock on in a tree, and really needed a west or northwest to hunt it. And then I have a ground blind or a shooting house, 360 blind, that is south of that, and I've got it set up, mainly for a southwest or west wind. So I really needed something out of the west to make it work. And all we have had is easterly winds the whole season. So we finally got a northeast, and I was like, I'm going to chance it. I think I know where these deer are coming in from, and I don't think that they're going to smell me. And the day before, we had a northeasterly wind, and it got so calm at dark that there was no wind. And where that shooting house is set up, I've got it set up so that I can approach it and leave it without spooking the deer in the field. It's right on the edge of a little crest. And I thought, well, if the thermals are going to bring my scent down, if it goes calm, then none of my scent will be in the field.
Right.
It'll all be going on the backside of that ridge down the valley. So I got in there, and deer started filtering out early that afternoon. I've got some phenomenal footage of just deer doing what deer do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a 7-year-old buck that is just an absolute piece of trash that somebody needs to kill that came out. And he's usually, the buck that I was after is usually with him. And I'm like, you know what? I really need to kill that deer. And I might kill that deer if the other one doesn't come out, And I'm sitting there fiddling with the camera and looking at my phone. And I look up, and he's there, like 28 yards, the deer I'm after, just sitting there, standing there. He's looking across the field. And I hit him with the rangefinder, and I'm like, well, yeah, he's where I want him. There's so many deer there, and they're feeding back and forth in this corn, and there's a big food plot out here, more deer coming. And I just couldn't draw. There's too many deer. I'm like, one, I can't shoot him. Even if I get drawn, I can't shoot him.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to be able to get drawn because there's like 12 deer out here,
Yeah.
and they're all within 25 to 35 yards. So I'm just patient. I'm waiting. And finally, some of them start to disperse. After deer feed on corn for a few minutes, they'll go out here in the field, and they'll just nibble around on grass and clover. So a few of them had kind of filtered away, which left me a little. I was more comfortable then being able to draw. So when he was quartering away, and I had an opening to draw, and everybody had their head down. So I'm like, well, nobody's alert. I'm drawing.
Question: was there anybody in the house with you, or just you?
It's just me.
Okay, so you're manipulating camera, windows, bow, and all.
I'm doing
by yourself.
doing everything by
I was
myself.
curious if one of the boys was with you.
No, you can't, because you can with a gun.
Too tight with a bow.
With a bow though. I have to.
Just not enough
The way
room.
I've got the shooting house set up, I actually draw in the longest portion, and then I turn. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't allow anybody to really sit there.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I was just curious.
yeah, so I'm running the camera. I'm trying to manipulate the windows. I'm trying to get their drawn and everything. So it all works out. I get the full draw. I'm sitting there, and the deer's where he needs to be, and I'm like, oh, thank you, Lord, it's fixing to work. This is going to work. And
It did work.
it worked perfectly. But at 32 yards, 9 times out of 10, these deer are going to drop.
Mm-hmm.
So I always aim, at the very low or at the very highest, I'm aiming at the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll generally drop 6 to 8 inches, so you'll hit them high lung if you aim at the heart at that distance. So I put it on his heart, and I held it there for a minute, and I was like, he's 32 yards with his head down. I'm going to drop it 2 more inches. So I put it right at the base of the brisket.
Mm-hmm.
You know where I hit him? Right at the base of the brisket, because he didn't drop.
Yep.
I mean, He dropped, but it was as the arrow was actually making contact.
Yeah.
So had he dropped a millisecond sooner, it would have been a perfect shot.
Right.
But
look, I hadn't shot near as many good bucks as you have in the South. Shot plenty, but I have not noticed bucks anywhere drop nothing like a doe.
No, they don't.
I mean, it's
man.
just not
They
even
don't.
close.
no, and
I had to kind of get myself out of shooting low at deer in the Midwest.
right because
They don't go anywhere.
you'll shoot right under them.
Absolutely.
You will shoot right under
They
them.
don't go anywhere.
No, even the does.
Uh-uh.
I've shot does in the Midwest. In Kansas, I've shot does. I really feel like I probably could have jumped out of the tree with a spear and
got
killed
him.
them, and I don't think they'd have moved.
Right.
But
just look at you.
yeah, these deer down here, they're so flighty.
They are.
So yeah, I've killed 3, 1 spike, and
yes, it
and
was checked in on game check.
it did get checked in on game check as
Correctly.
a spike. Correctly, yep. Well, so that leaves me with very limited options moving forward in the state of Alabama.
Well, there you go. You
With
gotta
Hey, you still got 2.
yeah, you got 2.
I know, but I got a lot of places to hunt, so I'm just gonna have to
Yeah, you have a
be selective.
lot more places to hunt than the average guy.
There's no doubt. I'm very blessed and thankful for it.
No doubt. Yep.
So, Tay, let's hear about yours.
Well, mine was
I'll save y'all trouble. He hit one with the car. That's about all.
yeah.
I'm just
glad I didn't. No, it was cool. You guys have heard me talk about this a lot on here, but got selected for an SOA hunt. If you're not familiar, it's just called a special opportunity hunt.
You are the biggest walking billboard for DCNR SOA.
Dude,
hunts.
I just think
Absolutely.
it's like it's funny because I'm really not a big public land guy. Like I'm not the dude that's going to go hunt public land and go hike 5 miles deep to get away from people. Like
But that SOA's got your number.
well,
yeah.
it's cool because technically speaking, it is public land, but you kind of get to hunt it like private land. You
Yeah.
know,
It's tightly controlled.
Yeah, like either if you get selected, you have a very small, very short window of opportunity where you get to hunt and you get a unit too, right?
A primo area.
And so, basically, it's yours for these 3-4 days, and then after that, you may never get to hunt it again the rest of your life. And so, it's just kind of a cool deal because I like the game of it. We have a very short window here, and we got to try to make something happen. You got to kind of use your skills to scout. You don't have. I guess technically you could run a camera on it. I guess if you wanted to, but I've never done that. It's like you just got to go and scout and just make it happen in those short period of time. So it's a lot of fun for me. But
what's neat about those, and you're bringing that up, is I think in instances like that, it brings woodsmanship back into it quite a bit as compared
absolutely.
to
it does, and
where a lot of other hunting doesn't.
yeah, and
especially where we are today.
you also get to hunt a place that it's kind of rare. I have hunted at Thigpen before, but I've never deer hunted it.
Yeah, you
Hog hunted and turkey hunted.
Okay.
So, generally speaking, you're kind of going to an area that you don't know, and it's somewhere that you've got to sort of figure out in a very short amount of time. So that's very rewarding when it works out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just kind of a cool.
I find it fun even when it doesn't work out.
Yeah, I mean,
I
Oh, yeah.
enjoyed the heck out of. I've talked about it several times. Is our trip to Nebraska, but we didn't kill crap, and I had a blast.
yeah, I mean it was fun, and but yeah, basically the short of that story is we left out on the 17th, which would have been that Thursday, I guess, when you were hunting. But bring my buddy Kyle, who you've heard me talk about a lot. But we go down. Really, I was hoping that Kyle would get a chance to fling an arrow at something on that trip because there's a lot of pigs on this place too. And of course, other things are at play like coyotes and all that kind of stuff. I was like, I really want to get him something with a bow.
Now, has he ever killed an animal with a bow?
He shot a pig on a hunt in around the Hurtsboro area,
Okay.
but was unable to recover it.
Gotcha.
He he didn't have an arrow set up built for pigs.
Yeah.
Made a great shot,
Yeah,
but just didn't penetrate like it should have.
Yep.
And so now he is. I've built him some stuff, and if something comes out there and gives him an opportunity, he'll smoke
Yeah,
something.
just FYI, if you guys are hunting with little bitty old light hunter setups for deer, if you can shoot good enough, shoot the pig in the ear.
Yeah,
If you've got a light setup, shoot them in the ear. If you miss back, you're going to shoot right through the neck, and you will hit
Good
the
stuff.
artery. Yep. If you aim at heart, lungs on pig, and you got a light set up, and you hit that plate, you're done.
Yeah,
Your arrow is going to get about that much penetration.
I shot a big boar several years ago with a decent arrow setup for heavier skinned game.
Mm-hmm. You okay over there?
Huh?
You okay?
I'm fixing to have to remove this headset and drink some water. But somebody recovered, or somebody shot that pig later on in the rifle season, and they had him a broadhead, about 6 inches of the shaft, and it had gone in and penetrated one lung, but that joker was still kicking and doing fine.
They're so tough. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, we keep getting you
no, but I mean, basically that first evening we hunted we've all talked about it, dry as an absolute bone. So we just decided to try to hunt as close as we could to water, where we still had some food, and that was what was a little bit interesting. And I was going to kind of pick your brains on some of this, because this is an area of the world in general, but certainly that that property, there's no shortage of deer. There's deer all over that place. Finding actual deer sign down there was a lot harder than I thought it would be. I finally found some some fresh rubs and stuff in a few areas, but as far as just piles of droppings and trails leading to and from, there was just not a whole lot of that. And I don't know if it was because these, like you said, hey, what acorns have dropped are just getting annihilated by pigs, because I'm telling you, anywhere we walked, anywhere along the creek, looked like someone had called in an airstrike, absolutely decimated.
That's not good.
With hog sign. Everywhere you went, I'm telling you, and a lot of it was old, or it looked old because it was so dry and there was leaves on top of it.
But it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's really hard to tell when you haven't got rain in so long.
And when we're that dry, that becomes a limited resource problem.
Yes, it does.
So, deer may normally be there. They may not be now.
Right. Yep. And so,
or when you were there anyway.
Sure. Because even on the hog hunt, which took place the day after deer season ended a couple of years ago when I was on that, was still no shortage of deer sightings. You know what I mean? Lots of deer.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the same scenario where, everywhere you turn, it's just under every oak. I don't care if it's water oak, white oak, red oak, whatever. It was just like you pulled a disc through it.
Yep.
Yeah. And so it was okay.
I guess I realized that area was that bad.
I
knew there was plenty of hogs down there, but I don't know thick pen though. So
well, that's what was like I keep saying. It was kind of odd. Is there was so much pig sign and so little deer sign. You would think, man, you'd have to run across a group of pigs just scouting, just walking through the woods somewhere. And Kyle, the first night, he hunted this little spot that we just kind of. If you watch the video, by the way, I got one out on YouTube. You can check that out and see the whole hunt in detail. But he hunted this little spot we call the Peninsula, because it had that main creek called Cedar Creek through it, and it had just these little pockets of water still in it, spaced out, and then there was a little drainage branch off of it that was totally dry, and it just kind of made, if there was water in it, it would be surrounded on three sides. And we found a pretty defined crossing right there, so he hunts that. The first night, sees 5 pigs come up out of that drainage. They kind of got his wind. I think wind swirled and they kind of picked him off. But then later had a buck of some kind and a few does that came in. And basically it's just one of those things where you just kind of live and learn. But he's like, I know what not to do now. So I had one area that I thought I really need to clear that out right there. I needed to pull branches or something, but I physically couldn't reach them. From the tree. He's like, gosh, I really need to get those out of the way, but I can't reach them. Whatever, I'm just going to hunt. and he ends up having that buck at like 15 yards and can't shoot it.
That's one reason I have a pole saw, one of the little collapsible saws in my pack if I'm hunting like that. If I know where I'm going to be, I've trimmed it out.
Right.
But in a new spot, I don't remember what brand name that thing is, but it folds down on a 6 or 8 foot stick so you can reach stuff.
Well, and that's like the other thing too is we were trying to be over the top cautious on stuff because I don't think you can cut anything on public. I don't know.
I don't know if we can in Alabama or not. I actually don't remember saying that you can't cut.
So he was just like, I don't want to cause any trouble.
I know you can't cut a tree down.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
But at best I remember, the language is you can trim limbs.
I don't remember.
I just don't think you can cut a tree down.
I honestly wouldn't worry about it. I'd trim whatever the crap I wanted to.
Well, I would too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was just
and
like,
that's coming for guys that work there.
Yeah. Well, he was just, you know what I mean. You want to play by the rules and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But that was ended up where I hunted that night. I saw one pig right at dark. It leaves.
Big pig or just?
Yeah, seemed to be. It was across that dry drainage I'm talking about on the other side. And it appeared to be just a boar by himself.
Yeah.
But he kind of didn't get in that drainage, but just kind of walked the edge of it away from me. Mm-hmm. And that was it for the first night. Second day, we did not hunt. It's kind of a funny story if you watch the whole video, but we didn't hunt a morning the whole time we were there, which is just like,
I don't know how to comprehend what he just said.
Insane, I know. And I'll explain why. The first night that we hunted,
he didn't hunt a morning.
Nope, didn't hunt a morning.
Well, sleeping bags are good and warm. Well, you got 2 guys in one.
No, stayed in old Quality Inn, man, in the hotel, 2 beds.
Oh man.
But the reason we didn't is my oldest had a nightmare the night before we left. I know this sounds stupid, but this is the truth. He woke up freaking out, screaming, crying, whatever, at about 3 a.m. and just didn't go back to sleep. I tried, and so I had been up since 3 a.m. and then we drove 4 hours, and then we hunted, and anyways, we just crashed that night and got up. Got there about 10 o'clock that morning, and you have travel times like from 10 to 2. So we scout during that travel time, all that kind of stuff. I go to a spot that, by the way, I don't know the guy's last name. I know his first name is Brennan. But shout out to Brennan. He reached out on Instagram and said, hey, that used to be our lease. Me and my dad used to hunt this property when I was a kid, and here's a spot you might want to go check out, kind of deal. And so appreciate him kind of dropping some pins for us. But I went and checked out one of those spots, and I don't know if it's actually the spot that he had, really picked out or whatever, but close enough. Found an area. It's just like beautiful. You guys would know what plants are growing in there. I don't know what it is. It's not ferns, but it's small green grasses that are about this tall everywhere, with just oaks, just, and like private land's probably 150 yards away from me. In that general direction. I tried to get back from it, but it's so thick you can't, whatever.
I'm trying to get back from it, but it looks so good. I'm going to get closer.
Well, truthfully, the private stuff was so thick you couldn't hunt it.
Yeah.
It was crazy, barrier right there, and that's what kind of made me like the spot. Is you had like blowdowns and super thick elevation behind me, and then this just flat, like kind of oasis in the middle, and. So I get there and have deer come through. Long story short, I end up shooting this doe at like 13 yards. And that made for a miserable pack out of, because I don't know if you guys know this or not, but the state wants you to weigh them live weight when you get them back. Mm-hmm. And then without stomach and intestines, and then without anything in the cavity. And then they also want the jawbone. And all this kind of stuff. So
what?
They want you to weigh it 3 different times?
Yep.
That's
3?
ridiculous.
Live weight, stomach and intestines,
Only remove stomach intestines.
Yep, and then remove.
But
everything.
leave heart, lung.
What's the purpose? Because there's already formulas to gain.
Good formulas.
I don't know, but they said on the sheet of paper, it's like, do not estimate this.
Okay, guys that work for the state, I know y'all listen time to time. What is the reason for that? And you better have a good one.
Yeah, I don't know. So again, we're just trying to play by the rules. And
I play by the rules.
I know what the reason is because we said so, and that's a good one.
But
I'm curious as to what.
I mean, honestly, I'm curious as to why that would matter.
I've never done that anywhere.
I haven't either.
No, and I'll tell you too. It is it makes for, if you shoot something in the evening, it makes for a really long
tough night.
Yeah, you don't want to add any more work to that.
Now,
It's going to be hard enough.
Well, now this is a SOA hunt, so y'all get next to no assistance other than answering some questions.
Yeah, basically in the email it said this is a self-serve hunt.
Okay,
like we didn't even see a biologist or an officer, no one. Huh. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've never seen one at Thigpen ever. But and that's not like a knock against anybody.
No. I mean, there's
fine, but
I'm sure whoever's taking care of Thigpen, that's only one of their 34
several
responsibilities.
Yeah. But by the time that we got this thing out, done all the data collection and processed it, because there's nowhere to take it. You got to get it broken down, put it in a cooler.
Y'all are done.
Yeah, it's. I think we got back to the hotel at like 12:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Something. So.
And imagine if you shot two.
Yes, exactly.
Both of you shot one.
Exactly. So, needless to say, we crashed again. Didn't sleep. Didn't hunt the next morning. Go back that following evening, and Kyle wants to hunt a different spot, deeper off where we went the first night, and you can see on the video, his spot looked immaculate. It looked so good. I couldn't believe he didn't have any animal sighted there, which blew my mind. I went to the peninsula since he didn't hunt there, and sure enough, here comes a doe, 18 yards, whack. And
okay, so you shot two.
Shot two.
I didn't realize you shot two. I thought you just shot one.
No, I had two, and of course, I texted him like, "Please don't hate me." Doe number 2's down, and he was like, "I knew that would happen. I knew if you hunted it, you'd kill something." So
we need to get you and Kyle over to my place over there and just let y'all
whack on
just
absolutely
start thumping deer.
That's right. Let the air out of them. But anyways, by the time we did all of that, again, the same deal, like super late night, drag them out, all that. So that was kind of the end of that deal there. But it was a whole lot of fun, all things considered, just like getting to learn different terrain, different topography, that sort of stuff. So if those of you guys are like, yeah, y'all don't hunt that public land, y'all like private, like, well, we kind of like those. So,
yeah. I mean, hey, it just is what it is.
Right.
I hunt public, and it's definitely got its place, but to me, the fun and enjoyment is taking deer that I've had a hand in managing.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's what right. I enjoy. And I know other people enjoy, the thrill and the enjoyment of, killing a deer on public land. It's not for me. Mm-hmm. It's just not for me.
Yeah. Well, you just have to reel in your expectations on what you're doing.
Well, there's give and take on both.
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, look, you rarely run into neighbor problems on public land.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You might have hunter problems.
That's right.
But you're not going to have
neighbor
problems.
You're not going to have neighbor problems generally. And when you're private land, generally you don't have a whole lot of hunter problems.
Mm-hmm. And look, I've
hunted
public land in several states, and I've seen deer and had some success on some and not on others. But in the areas that I have hunted that were public, they were not very highly pressured.
Yeah,
I didn't run into other hunters, not in the areas I selected to hunt. I'm sure there's highly pressured areas on public land. But
well, there are, and I've we used to hunt public in Jackson County quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, still go. I've got a group of buddies that goes every year, and I hadn't been the last couple just because timing don't work out. But they go up, do a bow hunt, and spend a weekend or 3 or 4 days up there. But there's places on Skyline that you'll go hunt, and you'll not see a person. But the places that
There's
have
reasons for that.
yeah, but the places that have decent access where somebody can hike back in and get on something that looks good from an aerial perspective and sit on private land borders, you can't keep them off. I gave up ground in Jackson County because we could not hunt it. Access was bad for us anyway. We could have come in from public, but there was always guys sitting on our line. I mean, and we had folks arrested on an annual basis, just coming and hunting on us.
Yep.
That's not worth it.
Marked well. So you're going to deal with that some.
Yeah.
And another reason I don't hunt public, just it's a timing thing. I don't have time to go out and scout new areas and figure out new places to hunt, and then you got your travel time.
Yep.
I'm too busy to drive an hour to go hunt somewhere.
Well, I mean, even like here, there's a handful of places. There may be some TVA stuff that you can bow hunt that's local, but for the most part, if me and Jeremy are going to go hunt public land somewhere, you're driving at least an hour.
Minimum hour.
I mean, you know what I mean? It's not like you run down the road 10 minutes and go jump in a tree. It's harder to do. So,
and with our traffic problems around here now, it's about turned into an hour and a half or more.
But I guess just to kind of wrap this kind of episode up, this is kind of a recap of kind of early season stuff. I did want to get your opinions on some stuff, but like, what do you think made? I mean, Jeremy didn't kill that buck.
I'm a loser,
but you got close enough. I mean, you were in the same vicinity. So, like, what do you think made that successful? Or what do you think went into those hunts being successful? Was that just purely being in the right place at the right time, or is there travel patterns that you guys have noticed?
There's travel patterns.
That particular area he's hunting is a good little funnel through there. I mean, deer just travel through there.
Yeah.
And you got a lot of bedding. Well, heck, you've got the cutover that they bed in, and they bed in the larger pines because the understory is pretty thick on it.
Yeah.
But it's just a good
corridor. It's just one of those places that deer come through.
Yep.
Yeah.
You just got to be in the right tree with a bow.
Yes. Yeah. But what makes what makes that successful, or at least that particular site, is we've got 3 ways in. So almost any wind, if we want to get in there, we can get in there and not walk through and mess deer up, not booger them out. They're not going to smell us. But, you also, part of that setup where you're at, you either want consistent wind or you want to be there in the morning time for the thermals.
Yep.
We had consistent wind that was about 5 or 6 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So it was steady, wasn't blowing hard, but it kept my wind back up, just quartering off of him. I mean, honestly, my wind would have been going back down the drainage a little bit, but the way he was paralleling the drain, and my wind was on the opposite side of the creek. More than likely rolling down that creek is what it's doing.
Yeah.
But he's on the opposite side, not quite on the creek, so he never knew I was in the world. Well, actually, he probably did.
Eventually.
What? No, he heard me.
Oh, did when you come down?
Nope. He heard me when I smacked the release off the side of the camera arm.
Tink.
It did, and he stopped and he threw his head up, and he, in that environment they can't tell on a sound like that. I mean, he stood and stared out into the clear cut. And, it's that way.
Yeah.
In reality, I was directly behind him.
Yeah.
It may have echoed off the side of that hill.
Yeah. But he stood there a couple minutes and looked and then just on his way. Fed here and there.
Yeah.
But for that deer, one, we know the area, but access and wind were the 2 things that kept me in the game.
Yeah. No doubt. Jeremy, Pat,
don't ever call me that again.
I did it before. What do you think on yours? I mean, obviously you've got access to this property, and like you were saying, I manage this. I kind of know I've got an idea where these deer are going to be. I'm looking at trail cameras and stuff. But all that said, you can't control the weather.
No.
You can't control the wind direction.
No.
So what do you think made that?
Well, and see, there were several places that I would have liked to have hunted on this property that I couldn't because of the wind. So I improvised last minute, and I'm like, well, and the owner of the property, he's like, go check out a couple of these areas. You know, you may want to hang a stand in here. So I saw fresh activity, tracks, droppings, acorn holes, empty acorn holes. So they're eating the acorns as soon as they hit the ground. Did I say fresh rubs?
You did earlier, I think.
Okay. So there were a few fresh rubs in there. But the biggest thing was I had a northeast wind, and where my stand was located, I had the majority of the oaks that were dropping were just to my northeast, and just to the northeast of that was a big bedding area. It was in the edge of a swamp, a big overgrown swamp, just all thick vegetation, and they bed along the edge of that. So, my thought was these deer are going to be bedded along this swamp edge. They're literally going to step up out of their bed, and they're going to filter into these hardwoods and eat these acorns right as soon as they get up. So I'm probably going to catch early activity here. Did not catch early activity, but I did see several deer. It was just late, right at dark.
Yeah.
But now the next morning, we had some ag fields and some large wheat fields kind of in the center of the property. And a lot of the deer, early season, come to the center of that property at night, and they socialize and they eat and they do their thing. And you'll catch them filtering back through the property to go bed down. So I just got where I thought deer would be funneling through. There's a big hardwood section there, a little thicket back behind it. And I just kind of sat right there on the edge of that slough. And the wind was kind of questionable. I would have rather had a northwest or west wind hunting where I was, but it is what it is. I had limited options that morning.
Right.
But as far as the other deer, corn.
Yeah, it always helps.
Yeah, corn helps.
Yeah, I mean,
but lack of pressure. You can't just hunt over corn anytime and everywhere
right.
like you want to. I mean, you've got to play the wind, and your approach and all that's just as vital.
It is. I mean, I would say that, especially when we're talking about with a bow. Now, look, you get in a shooting house and you get 150 yards off of a feeder or something like that, then, yeah, you do some damage. But getting something within, let's just say, 35 yards of you, even that is a little bit of a stretch in, certain areas. It's not, you can't just be an idiot. You can't, just kind of tromp through there and I'm going to smack something today because if you do some things wrong, you won't.
Well, I mean, it's like the deer that I shot, grazed the brisket on. I probably had 14 deer around me within bow range at one time, just not getting smelled, not getting seen, pulling off your draw. All those are a challenge with that many eyeballs around you. So, it's not always, you're hunting over corn. It's not.
Right.
It really is not that easy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the first doe that I shot at on the SOA hunt, there's that spot. It's weird. I didn't really see any sign there that just got me super fired up. And I don't know if y'all have ever done this before, but it's just like you go to a place and you just I just have to hunt this. I don't really have I don't have anything I can point to say
something just sets right.
Yes, there has to be deer in here at some time. And that was just one of those spots where it looked like everything else. There was pig sign everywhere and all that kind of stuff, but I was just like, deer have to come through here. They have to. Creek's this way, private's that way. This is elevation and thick stuff, and back here is more of kind of what I'm hunting, and I'm like, I could just see them going through here,
right,
to the private or to the creek. It just kind of slipping through, and that's pretty much what happened. And then on the second one, I don't really know what to attribute that one to, other than we just hunted a very, very limited resource in water and go, this is the easiest way for you to get to it. Make sure the wind is good. And it was for the most part. But like you said, right at dark, or not right at dark, but just the last probably 30 minutes or so of shooting light, the wind just kind of dies.
Yep.
And I couldn't believe, because it just never plays out like this for me, it doesn't seem like, but I just couldn't believe both of those deer just came in. The first one was a little spooky, but ended up killing her at, 13 yards or whatever.
Yep.
And the second one just comes over here to my strong side, poses broadside at 18 yards. I'm just not used to that, where I hunt like they're, I've got to just beg deer to get in a shooting lane or, to get close enough. And so it just all kind of came together. But
Jeremy, you going to join us?
Mm-hmm.
He's over there making money.
I'm over here selling land.
Yeah. I hope so. I really do. You need to be selling land.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, I mean, that's pretty well it, guys. We just want to give you a quick recap and have a little story time, I guess.
Maybe we'll have many more stories here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, hope so.
We're going to have some stories.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about if we'll have them in hand, but we'll have some stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hope I have some video of some
that's right.
great golly whoppers.
He's heading out to the land of giants out in Kansas, and we'll be there for, I don't know, 3 weeks or something. So while he may or may not smash a giant, there will probably be some clients that do for sure. And so we'll update you guys on some of that stuff too. But as always, guys, we really appreciate you hanging out with us, and we really appreciate any time that you share the podcast with some of your friends, hunt buddies, around camp, that sort of thing. It's a big deal for us. So continue to do that. Just like, share, subscribe, comment, and if you have questions about habitat management or land, improvement, any of that type stuff, shoot them over to us. You can shoot us a DM. You can reach us at email is info@thesouthernu.com. We'll take those questions and pass them off to the resident biologists and get you some info, try to answer them best we can. And if you need help managing your property, we're equipped for that as well.
Yep.
So we appreciate you guys, and I guess we'll see you on the next one.
Peace out.
Out.
See y'all.